This first song we'd like to offer this morning is written by Swami Ananda, entitled Lift Your Hearts. Lift your hearts up to the Lord. Alleluia, alleluia.
Spread the news that He is joy.
Alleluia, alleluia. Sing in the mountains, sing in the meadows, sing hallelujah, God is joy. Lift your hearts up to the Lord. Alleluia, alleluia.
Spread the news that He is true.
Alleluia, alleluia. Sing in the mountains, sing in the meadows, sing hallelujah, God is truth. Lift your hearts up to the Lord. Alleluia, alleluia. Spread the news that He is love. Alleluia, alleluia. Sing in the mountains, sing in the meadows, sing hallelujah, God is love. Sing in the mountains, sing in the meadows, sing hallelujah, God is love.
Good morning. Is this on? This reading is from Rays of the One Light, Weekly Commentaries on the Bible and Bhagavad Gita by Swami Kriyananda. Week 44. Why tell God anything when He knows everything? Why offer God anything when He has everything? Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. Jesus Christ teaches as the ideal prayer one that addresses very human demands to God. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Jesus himself says just before suggesting this prayer, Your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask him. Why then his recommendation that we pray for anything? The answer is that we should offer ourselves up in acceptance of his abundance. Don't pester God as though pulling constantly on his sleeve to get his attention. Approach him with the confidence of a child in its parent. And in that spirit then, ask him lovingly but with complete trust, as though demanding your birthright and without the slightest doubt in your mind that he wants only your best. For you don't have to persuade him the way a beggar or a stranger might. You are his own child. God knows everything already. He knows what is in your heart. It is you who need to clarify your feelings that you attune yourself to him in turn more clearly. For only by such clarity will you be able to receive perfectly what he gives you. For the same reason, we need to offer ourselves to him, not because he needs anything from us, except, as Yogananda said, our love to complete his love for us, but because by self-giving we expand our awareness from its confinement in the little ego outward to infinity. Those who partake of the nectar remaining after a sacrifice, says the Bhagavad Gita in the 4th chapter, attain to the infinite spirit. That person, however, who makes no sacrifices, never truly succeeds in enjoying even the blessings of this material world. How then could we attain happiness in subtler realms? Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
So, welcome everyone to Sunday service at Not Ananda Village, Ananda, Portland. Can't be on automatic with these things. So I am Nayaswami Parvati, and this is Nayaswami not Nayaswami, Tyagi, Surendra, and we're very happy to share this Sunday service with you. And I'm especially happy to see many, many friends again. It's been a long time since I've been here in Portland, and for some of you that don't know, Pranaba and I lived here for about 6 or 7 years, and quite a while ago. So I'd like to read from Whispers from Eternity. Tune us that we may hear thy voice. Volumes of thy Savior voice resound through the loudspeaker of every loving heart. The voice of thy wisdom roams through the ether of space, seeking everywhere hearts that are tuned to ecstasy. Sadly, thy warning sermons pass unheard by souls deafened with the static of sense pleasures. O divine broadcaster, tune our souls, long distracted by the static of our indifference. Fine-tune us with the delicate touch of soul perception. Grant us the privilege of hearing thy magic melodies in the ecstasy of divine awakening. So, well, I come from the land of no electricity and raging wildfires. And this topic is, and especially the one of acceptance on the affirmation, I thought, that's a very, very good affirmation to be doing right now, because there's so many things that we have to simply accept. And yet, I found myself in California in the last couple of weeks with a lot of blackouts, saying, why is this happening? PG&E, you know, all of the, because there was a lot of reaction to that. And I thought, I don't want that reaction to die away and people just to say, oh, well, this is just how it is now, you know, because it's not workable. And then at a certain point, I saw where there were meetings happening and, you know, people starting to try to figure out how to deal with this in a positive way, what can happen positively. And then I found myself shifting into my more natural understanding of when things happen in the world like this, of, wow, Divine Mother, you are really having a good time here with us and with just the environment, with what's happening. So California is under siege, and wildfires are very serious and very devastating. Fire is just, everything's gone. But, you know, that's just one example of what we're dealing with in our time now. And we do have to learn to accept, but also to accept but understand that we're not in control here. You know, it's a tough lesson to learn, because our egos really don't like to hear that, to feel that. We're in control. Americans, we do things, you know, we know how to do and make it all okay and all of that. But in essence, we're in a time right now, and I'm sure a lot of you feel this and understand this, at least on some level, that it's really moving out of our control. And luckily for us, on this path, we have Yogananda's teachings, we have 5 avatars to help us through this time, and we have a broader understanding. And I'd like to just remind us all what that understanding is, that really the overall thing that's happening right now and why things are so chaotic and bizarre and good things happening and really strange bad things happening is that we're in a time of tremendous transition in our world. We are transitioning from one age, the age of materialism, Kali Yuga, the age of darkness, lower understanding, into an age, not not perfect age by any means, let's keep that in mind, but into an age that's more fluid, an age called Dwapara Yuga. It's an age of energy, where things move more fluidly. And really, from the beginning of the 1900s, it's been happening, and it came in a big way. You know, in the late 1800s, it was about more material things, a lot of energy, but more material things, and railroads. And we watched a video. We were on vacation recently, excuse me, in Maui, and we happened to find this program about the Gilded Age, and it was a very good American experience program on just everything that happened from about 1850 on to the beginning of the 1900s. But the overall impression was just, for me, how brutal it was on people. It was very, very hard. Life changed completely. My grandmother grew up with horses and carriages, and then she was working on the telephone exchange, and then, you know, she died in the 1950s. But just the tremendous amount of change that started to happen in the 1800s and then really accelerated in the 1900s. And we're still in the big acceleration part right now, and it's very stressful for all of us. I mean, for people everywhere. But it's more stressful if you think, this shouldn't be happening. Why is this happening? But it is, and it's simply how it is. And it is happening for a reason. Again, a transition. And the other part, a transition into a different time, a different way. Before I get into the other part, I wanted to say that, you know, Yogananda, and I haven't been able to find where he said this, but he said, the world as you know it will no longer exist. It will transition into a different world, a different time. And that will come partly by just outer change, but also because our consciousness, the consciousness will change in how we see things, in how we do things. So it's a positive thing. It's not something that it's the end of the world. It's the end of a certain period of the world. So it feels like the end of the world, because it is for that segment of it, materialism and all of that. But the other part for all of us to understand as people who are devotees, disciples, interested in understanding things from spiritual point of view, is that we chose to come now. Reincarnation and karma. We chose to come now. And now, right in this time, I was born in 1946, so, you know, last half of the century. It's a great time to be here for spiritual growth because of the chaos. Because then you see that new kinds of energies, new kinds of understandings, they're coming up, and they're able to come up. They're able to actually grow and be accepted because there's room for that. People are looking for answers, for solutions. But that thing of us, of our karma, and us choosing to come in this time is a very, I don't know about it, how it is for you. Maybe this is a new thought for you, but for me, it's just, I can relax. This is what I want, you know? It's not something imposed on me. And I want it because it's a great time to grow spiritually. It's just, wow, there's so many potentials. And we also find that in order to survive, we really have to go inside. Meditation is no longer an option, it's required for sanity, for fulfillment, for the higher things, fulfillment and joy and all of that. But to survive in a time when the outer world is going through so much chaos, transition, and outrageous things happening, really. I mean, we all know this. Anyway, so, and I was remembering, we had a workshop in here yesterday on how to know God's will, which is also a really important topic for this time, because we'll be faced with choices. We'll be faced with, should I do this? Should I do that? What should I do? And how do I know? Again, meditate Everybody has to meditate. Everybody can meditate. You just sit down, go inside, and there you have it. And as you do that, you'll feel much more centered and able to deal with whatever comes your way outwardly. So I told this story yesterday, and I thought I might share it with you today, and that is in regarding karma and individuals. And that is that Yogananda, when he was, I believe it was definitely before he came to America, and so before 1920. And he was very magnetic, very dynamic, and really deeply spiritual. And so he drew people to himself. And one man that came to him, because in the early 1900s, the Indians were really getting ready to ask the British to leave in not nice ways. It was, there was violence, there were, people going to prison and all of that. And they were rebelling. And this one man came to Yogananda and he said, our group, we're importing rifles and we're getting ready to do some big things, and we would like you to be part of our group. We'd like you to lead it. And Yogananda said a couple of things to him. He said, well, I can't do that personally. He said, India will be freed in my lifetime by peaceful means. It was decades away. And then he said, but for you, yes, you should do that. So the man went off, his little group formed, they imported rifles, they went down to pick them up at the dock. The British had been forewarned. They were all captured and executed. And Yogananda told this story when Swami Kriyananda was there. And Swami said, well, why did you tell them to go ahead and do it when you knew what would happen? And Yogananda said, because it was his karma to do that. And he would learn the lessons that he needed to learn from doing that. He said it wasn't my lesson to learn, but it was for him. Even that drastic dying. So anyway, there's that. Just to kind of keep in mind in our own lives, what is right for someone else may not be at all right for us. It's not our karma. And if we can be centered and live our lives with meditation as a daily part of that, then we'll get a feeling, we'll get intuitions, which is another topic that we talked about yesterday. We'll get intuitions, we'll get a feeling for what's my part in this time in doing, what should I do? And then also, at the same time that we're dealing with just all of this stuff happening, is that stuff is delusion. It's duality. It's just the world that God put in motion. And part of it's good and part of it's not, and all of that. And so, we throw around these words, duality and delusion, but the power of delusion is quite another thing. And I wanted to share with you a story that many of you probably know, but it's a great story from India. And so this is a story about Narada and Vishnu. So Vishnu represents God, and he was a best friend of Narada. And Narada represents all of us, except that he was self-realized. And so he was walking with Vishnu one day and feeling really good about his level of realization and understanding. And he said to Vishnu, I just don't understand why people are still bound in delusion. What's the big deal? Because he was free. And Vishnu said, yes, that's an interesting topic, but Narada, I'm feeling really thirsty right now. And so I'd like you to go and get me some water. And then we'll talk about this. And so he sends him off. Narada sees this little village out in the distance, and he walks over there and knocks on a door in the little village. And the door opens, and there is this beautiful woman who he looks at, and she looks at him, and they're just connected. It's like they've always known each other. It's the person that each of them was always looking for a relationship. And so he goes into the house, and her parents eventually arrive home, and they're all just a family, basically, instantly, and just really enjoying each other, and then life rolls on. And so the woman and Narada, they marry, and they have children, and the father has a business, and so he invites him into the business, and he becomes part of that, and so he's got everything that he ever wanted. And so he's got a little house in the village, and the family, and just everything. And then there comes a time of, not forest fire because they didn't have enough wood for that, but flood. They had water and flood, and this big flood comes, and it just starts to inundate everything. And it's very, very serious. And their house is flooded. He has children, one on his shoulders. He and his wife are holding the hand of the other one, and they just go out, and they're trying to find a way to escape this flood. And it's so strong that at a certain point, his wife falls down and is washed away. And the little boy, quickly, that they're holding the hand of, he quickly goes after that. And it's like, he's got the one child left, but he's just lost his wife and a child. And it's like, oh my God. And then he trips, and the little boy falls off of his shoulders, and he's swept away. Everything that he got is gone. His family, all his loved ones, his home, his business, everything. It's just swept away. And in that understanding, in that reality that he sees, in that moment, he just falls down and lets himself be carried away also, because there's nothing left to live for. This is a very serious story, but it's not. Because in that moment, after he falls down and is laying in the water and all of that, he hears this voice. And it says, Narada? Narada? I sent you out to get me a glass of water 15 minutes ago, and I find you sleeping in the sand. And Narada gets up, and he says, I get it now, my Lord. I understand how powerful your delusion can be. And so, for all of us, one of the points that we made yesterday during the workshop was that we have to accept what is. And that's also the acceptance reading, the affirmation. That is very, very important. We must live in the moment, and we must accept what's in that moment. That's the only reality that we have. You know, you think, it's not the past, that's stuff that already happened, you know, it's not going to happen again, not in any particular way. And the future hasn't come yet. So anyway, it's an interesting thing, and a very interesting and challenging world that we live in because of the power of delusion. And so we find ourselves really needing to go within and find what is the true reality. What are we really looking for? And where do we find it? Jesus said it pretty clearly, the kingdom of God is within you. And so we all need to do that. And as we do that, then we find that things start to come into focus because we're lifting our consciousness, changing it to a broader reality. And so as things come into focus, then we're able to say, ah, I get it. I understand what's really happening here. You can feel it from the inside, and you can also see that all of the ups and downs because duality, that's all that's happening. It's just up and then it's down. And maybe it's up, 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 and then down, down, down. But it's always fluctuating within an up and a down, an out and an in, and it's not going anywhere. That's why Yogananda's phrase, there comes a sense of anguishing monotony. Anguishing because we're looking for fulfillment. We're looking for happiness. Hey, that is what we want, right? But outwardly, not gonna happen, not gonna happen. Because duality can't provide that. It only can provide change. It can only provide things always in motion, but it can't provide fulfillment, because that thing that we're feeling about fulfillment, that comes from the spark within us, the soul, that's part of the divine. And so our fulfillment lies in light. Our fulfillment lies in samadhi. Our fulfillment lies in really knowing God completely and merging in that light. And it's a directional thing. I was thinking when we have the purification ceremony, remember, it's something that we do repeatedly, lifetime after lifetime, purification. Because when we say that phrase, by the grace of our masters, you are free, well, you have to believe that. Each person has to believe that. And that's an unfolding thing. It's a gradual process where we understand little by little, like Narada, who we really are. Who we really are. It's not who you see in the mirror. It's not who your ego thinks you are. But it's this part of the divine that really is in every atom of creation. And so that's the time that we're living in. It's great show. Remember, Yogananda said that thing. He said, God created the world and duality for your entertainment and education. But very few people are either entertained or educated because you have to know that that's what it's for. And so for all of us, and it's hard, it's never going to be easy because that duality, it's very magnetic. That delusion, wow, what a show. But if we can, again, have that place that we know where to pull back to inside and look out from that perspective, then we can say, along with Divine Mother, what a show, what a great show. I know a lot of suffering is happening and people are being fulfilled and not, but what a great show. Like, what a great movie. The disaster movie, how many disaster movies are made? Wow, just pulling out all these and horrors and all of this, and it's like, but you have to be able to say, and you can with the movie because you get to walk out of the movie theater. But you walk out into duality, of course, but you can say, what a great movie that was. What a lot I learned from that, how to deal with things, whatever. So for all of us in this time, I think, the other realization that while we were sitting in darkness for days, was that, and we had places to go. We had office that had a generator and that kind of thing. But I thought, I think Divine Mother, if we can see it this way, Divine Mother's giving us a little taste of what's to come. Because Yogananda talked about big things in this time of big change. And he talked about depression, he talked about catastrophe, he talked about Boston becoming tropical. You know, I mean, those are things that it's like, whoa, really? So, you know, maybe we won't have to experience that directly, but we sure are getting a big taste of it right now. And it's happening politically, it's happening in the atmosphere, it's happening with fires, it's happening with floods. You know, we're having fires in California. We actually, before I came here, the night before, because we just got electricity at 2:13 p.m. on Thursday afternoon after 5 days of no electricity. And Pranava said, let's go to the La Quinta. Let's go to the hotel in Sacramento. There's electricity, we can take a shower, and we can, you know, all of this stuff. So we did that. And the next morning I'm looking at the news in the breakfast room because it's on. And they're having blizzards and kind of tornadoes on the East Coast. You know, it's like, wow, what a show. But the way that we get through this in a way that's, one, our karma brought us here now, and how do we actually learn from this, is to go inside. And so do take it seriously. If you don't know how to meditate, learn. You can come here and learn how to meditate. But do that every day. Have that touchstone of going inside and really understanding that the big picture that's going on, it's God's show, it's God's dream, and Divine Mother's helping to keep that all in motion. But I was saying to people yesterday, and I'll close with this, is that the statues in India I've always really enjoyed. All the arms of Divine Mother, Durga or Kali or whatever. And the arms are keeping, it's Divine Mother as Mother Nature that keeps it all happening, all the world, good, bad, indifferent. But then there's always one hand that's out like this. And that's saying, by the way, my child, when you get tired of this show, I can also offer you salvation. But you have to come inside to know me. So that's there as well. But let us all live in ways that really, not only for ourselves. Swami Kriyananda was very strong about this with us. He said people will come and they will be really desperate for light. And so anybody who knows about light, who knows about meditation, we have a responsibility also. And it's the way that we will fulfill our karma, is when we go inside and we can get centered, then we can act as channels for that light, support for people who don't know how to do that. And just generally, I was saying that when I was in the airport the other day, this woman came up to me and commented, because I had been walking very fast, I had a big blue jacket on, and she said, wow, you really move fast, and that blue is really fabulous, that blue color. So, you know, people notice our energy, they notice our consciousness, they notice. And so be someone in this time who can really be centered, and someone who can give support outwardly. People are looking, they notice, and they want that. Very nice to be with you all.
Life is a dream, time like a stream carries our burdens away. Never despair, joys everywhere.
Good morning, all. So good to see you. We have several things happening this week that we want to make sure you know about. You can always check online on our calendar. You can pick up one of these at the front desk. That'll give you all the happenings. We have a new Learn to Meditate series starting on Tuesday night. And so if you want to learn to meditate, that's a great way to do it. Also, if you've taken them before and you want to come back for a refresher, you can do that for free. We also have drop-in meditations on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. We have drop-in yoga on Wednesdays and Saturdays. And this coming weekend, we have a couple special things. Friday night, we'll have a kirtan, which is music, chanting, and meditation at our community. That night also is the Living Wisdom School raffle. And you do not have to, 15th. Sorry, thank you. We're selling tickets for the raffle. And the raffle is going to be on the 15th. The Living Wisdom School is just back here and sort of behind the temple over here. And there's always wonderful things happening there. And this is one of their big fundraisers of the year. So as you leave today, you might see some out here, some of the kids and selling raffle tickets. And the tickets, the prizes are amazing. There's vacations and there's services and there's food and there's all kinds of stuff. So be sure to check that out. And we have next Sunday, we have Peter and Pooja are doing a mala making class in the afternoon here at the temple. So there's just always lots. Today, though, we're so happy that Parvati is here with us for the weekend, and it's not over. At the end of service, we have an opportunity to hear from her about the Ananda Janaka Foundation, which is the way that Ananda has of continuing to help Ananda in the future by gifts, by leaving legacy to Ananda to continue, have the work continue. And what's interesting is the Janaka Foundation is how old now? How many years? 18 years or so. Which means it's surprising to realize she'll be sharing how much the Janaka Foundation is helping us now, because for the last 18 years, people have been contributing to that to carry on Ananda's future. And for those people 18 years ago, we are Ananda future. And then we have the opportunity to continue that legacy and Ananda's work far into the future. And Parvati has been a part of that. She actually helped found that whole work and is going to share a lot with us after service. So we'll take a quick break after we go out with Joy, and then anybody and everybody is welcome to come back in here to hear more about that. And if it won't be long. It won't be long. And not long, but it'll be fun. And for those of you who are new to Ananda and might have questions and wonder what the heck we're doing here, we have a newcomers table in our clarity room right across the foyer there. So if you want to, Santosh is going to be there. I'll help answer any questions that you might have. Thank you for being here.